Hi, my name is Dario Dominguez, and I am an extension agent for Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service for the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program here in Bexar County. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be working with Gardopia and all the other organizations that you're going to be hearing from today. What we're going to be doing is making a recipe, but before we get into that, I wanted to give you a little bit of background information about our program. What Texas A&M AgriLife does is we are a grassroots program that provides education throughout the community. There is a extension office in most of the counties here in Texas. Ours is Bexar County. And within AgriLife, there are a variety of different programs: agriculture, horticulture, nutrition, community health, a lot of different ones. Mine is specifically nutrition. What we do is we go out into the community and we teach basic nutrition to all kinds of people: families, youths, teenagers, you name it, we've probably taught them. And that's what we're here to do today a little bit. So today, we're going to be making a recipe. It's called an apple Waldorf salad. It's a great recipe. It's seasonal, and it's very nutritious and also relatively inexpensive. That's what I really like about our recipes, is we try to make sure that they touch on those three: that they're low cost, good tasting, and most importantly, healthy. All of our recipes are low sodium, low saturated fat, and low added sugar. So within the apple Waldorf salad, there's a few ingredients. So there's about 2 medium apples, half a cup of celery, which we're going to talk about is about 2 stalks, give or take, depends on the size, but you can always use a measuring cup to figure it out. Half a cup of raisins, some pecans to top it off, about half a cup of vanilla yogurt, low fat, low sugar, and about a tablespoon of orange juice. And so these are all going to get mixed into the bowl. But to give you a little bit of background about the apple and the celery, so celery has vitamin A. It promotes cell and tissue growth. It protects against infection, and it keeps your eyes and skin healthy. It also has vitamin C, which produces collagen, protects against bruising, helps teeth and gums, and helps heal cuts and wounds. The apples actually are a good source of fiber. Which reduces cholesterol, improves digestive health, provides a feeling of fullness with fewer calories, and it decreases the risks of heart disease. And so these are probably the 2 main players that you're gonna be really carrying the weight of the recipe. And so what's nice about these are apples are generally a fall, winter fruit. They're relatively inexpensive during these seasons, and that's what you always want to do, is when you're thinking about what you're going to be cooking at home, you want to pick a recipe or pick foods that are in season to make sure the prices are lower. And the reason they're lower when you buy in season is because that's when they're being produced in mass. So if you were to get a watermelon in the summer, it's going to be way less expensive than you would if you got one in December, because of the seasons they fruit. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your surfaces and your hands have already been cleaned. I've already done that. Everything's already been prepped. You want to make sure you wash your hands with warm soap and water for about 20 seconds. Then once everything's all clean and sanitized, then you can kind of start going into the recipe. So what we're going to do first is we're going to core these apples. And so what that is really just cutting around the core, getting all the fruit off of the part that we won't eat. And so to core it, you just kind of go along the core of the apple. In this case, I'm going to do about 4 cuts straight down. That way you can kind of remove the core. If you have an apple core, you can do that as well. This is just one way you can do it with a knife if you don't have an apple core. And one thing I kind of want to point out is that I like using a chef knife. It fits my hands a little bit better than maybe a paring knife or a steak knife. We kind of just grab one that we have at home. There's really no wrong way to do it. But if you like using a chef knife, an important thing to do is make sure you have the right grip, which is you're going to take your pointer and your thumb and pinch the blade at the bottom, the heel right here, and then wrap the rest of your hand around the handle. And that's how you can have a way more controlled cut versus if you were holding it back here. It's less controlled, it feels a little more clunky. It's gonna be a little bit more dangerous to cut things. So a better grip is, again, pinching the bottom of the blade with your thumb and your pointer, and then wrapping the rest of your fingers around it, around the handle. So I'm gonna keep cutting my apples. And the nice thing about cooking your own food at home is that you can kind of change it up however you like. I got these Red Delicious apples because they were on sale. I tend to buy what's on sale because it's lower cost. I like to save money when I go to the store. And it makes me able to have a variety of meals. So I always look for what's on sale. But you can always kind of change this recipe up to fit a little bit better what you want. So for instance, I'm using raisins. You could use cranberries or some other dried fruit that maybe you do before. I have pecans here. Maybe you could use walnuts or something else. Or you could leave the nuts out completely if you have a nut allergy. So now I'm just gonna do a quick dice of these apples. And so whenever you're cutting any kind of fruit or vegetable, you always wanna make sure you have a cut that made it flat. That's what I did. This is flat now. And so now it sits on the cutting board and it won't wobble when I cut it. And so you always wanna have the flat edge part down on the cutting board. And because if you're cutting it on the round side, it'll move around. You might end up cutting yourself. And so you just, again, for safety, you always want to have it on that flat side. So I'm going to keep cutting. And I have a claw grip on my other hand. I use it to guide my knuckles, or guide my other hand. I use my knuckles on my left hand, my non-cutting hand, to make sure I can cut quickly and safely. I've seen a lot of people, even myself, I've cut myself a few times, kind of going quickly, cutting something. Maybe you're in a rush. Maybe you're doing a recipe demo, and you just make a mistake. And that totally happens. It happens to me, which is why knife safety is very important. You always want to make sure your knives are also sharp. A sharp knife is a safe knife. It's easier to cut into your ingredients, and you're more likely to not cut yourself. So again, you can see here, I'm just kind of doing like a rough dice. You can cut it as big or as small as you want. These are about maybe 1/4 inch size. If you like it a little bit finer, you can always chop it finer. That's completely up to you. You can see here, I'm just kind of going to town. That's why I like these chef knives, is because you can make way bigger cuts compared to a paring knife, where that might be taking me a little bit longer to do. And so I'm just kind of emptying my ingredients into my mixing bowl over here as I go along. And so this recipe is pretty good. I enjoy it a lot. Mainly because of the simplicity of it. A lot of people tend to think they don't like salads because maybe they don't like lettuce or they don't like the fruits or vegetables they put in. What's the really nice part about cooking these things is that you can ultimately decide what you want to do with it. So got about 1 apple in there. That'll be good for right now. Now I'm going to dice my celery. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rock chop. I'm going to have my hands exactly where I want them on the chef knife. I'm going to have my claw grip and put the blade against my knuckles right here. That way I can cut relatively quickly. And again, this is just me promoting the chef knife. I love them. Some people get really intimidated by them. It just takes practice. And you can, again, cut these as fine or chunky as you want, whatever you feel like. There's no wrong answer as far as, when it comes to cooking, unless, you're going to be adding a lot of those things you don't want in your recipes or in your food, such as sugar, salt. You want to try to limit those nutrients in your foods if you can, because those ones are usually linked to those chronic diseases, right? Heart disease, obesity, liver disease, just a bunch of different things that you want to try to avoid. That's not to say you can't have them. You definitely can. You just want to limit them as much as you can. And so one of the nice things about making your own food is that ultimately you know exactly what's in it versus buying convenience food. If you buy more convenience food or fast food, they are generally loaded with saturated fat, sodium, added sugar, and they really aren't that good for you. So you always want to try to cook your food when you have the time. Plan ahead when you go to the grocery store, and just generally stick to that plan. Those are always going to benefit you in the long run, especially if you're trying to live a healthier lifestyle. So I've got my apple and my celery in here. I'm going to add my raisins, add my pecans, give it that extra crunch if you like it. I'm going to be adding my yogurt in. This is low fat, low sugar yogurt. Vanilla. You could use plain if you want to. The vanilla flavoring adds a little bit more sweetness to it, so it's a little bit, and also the yogurt adds a little bit more kind of liquid, so it's not as dry tasting. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of orange juice. And so what the orange juice is for is a little bit of keeping the apples from browning. So if you add citrus to most fruits that tend to dry out, kind of brown pretty quickly when it gets cut up and it starts getting that oxygen in it, this will actually keep the color looking a little bit better. So now I'm just going to mix it all up. Some got out. Some gets out. You just kind of leave it there. You don't want to add it back into the bowl. Ultimately, especially if it falls on the floor, there is no such thing as a 5-second rule. Once it's on the ground, you really don't want to eat it unless you can wash it. Of course, you know, fruits and vegetables you can wash, but if it's something like meat or grains, you really don't want to be doing that too much. So I've got it all mixed up. I'm going to kind of walk it over there. Hopefully it looks good on camera. So let's see here. If you can, I don't see how close. I might be too close. I'll kind of hand it out right here. But you can see it's really colorful. It's got a good variety. It's got, again, it's got about 3 food groups. So it's got fruits, vegetables, protein through the nuts and the yogurt. Also dairy. So really 4 food groups. And it's a good winter salad. It's hearty. It's going to make you feel full, and that's what's really great about this recipe. So I want to thank you guys for coming today. I want to thank you for listening to me. I appreciate being invited here to help out with the conference. And if you are interested in any more recipes, feel free to follow us on social media. You can look up Bear EFNEP at AgriLife at Facebook, or you can go to our website, which is fnep.tamu.edu. We're always doing something. We've always got classes going on if you'd like to join some. We talk a lot about recipes. We talk a lot about food safety, budgeting, and most importantly, healthy eating. And so if that interests you at all, feel free to reach out to us, or feel free to try to find my contact information through Gardopia. But again, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and try this out. This is actually going to be my lunch day. So I'm going to go ahead and get eating on that. But again, thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.